What's up, everybody? It's Bucky Brooks, and this is Bleav in Jaguars, a podcast dedicated to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And today we're going to talk about the upcoming matchup with the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the New England Patriots back over the pond in London, seeing if the Jags can get back on track. Big game, a lot of, I won't say implication, but look, there's a lot of focus on this game because people are worried about the Jaguars. Will the Jaguars bounce back or will they fall apart, much like last season? So I won't say that this is a must win, but this is a must win. The Jaguars need to get this dub so they can come back stateside and see if they can get back on track, see if they can win a couple of games and kind of put themselves back in the conversation, not only have a winning season, but maybe to backdoor their way into the postseason. But before we talk about this week, let's talk about our sponsor, Bet Online. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup breakdown, even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. The Jaguars are favored by 5.5 points this week against the Patriots in London. So head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. And you're right, guys, it's a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are expected to get it done against a team that is struggling. But here's the thing about assuming that we can just chalk this one up for the Jags. As much as we talk about the New England Patriots being 1-5 and being a team that is really trying to find their way after winning their first game and losing 5 in a row, the Jaguars are sitting with the same record. And the Jaguars have to be careful. They can't assume that this is going to be a dub. They have to play well. They have to perform, or they have to do some things that they haven't really done all year, and that is display the consistency that we want to see in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. If they display the consistency, the solid performance in each of those areas, they're talented enough. They're more talented than the Patriots, then they should win. The problem that you have in these games are there's so many things that impact the game before you even step onto the field. We had issues coming out of the last game against Chicago Bears where there's questions about the culture and there's question about the effort. The questions about the culture comes from the head coach who ultimately is responsible for establishing the culture. So that's Doug Peterson and his coaching staff, making sure that everyone understands what the standards are if you play on this team. So that is on the head coach to be able to get that done, to set that, and to make sure that everyone is performing to the standard and expectation that has been set by the coaching staff. For the players, it's about making sure that they show up every day as pros and they do the work that is demanded of them and a little beyond. When Andre Cisco talked about he saw a whole lot of quit in the game, it is scary to me for a player to say that because they know, they sense it on the field in between the lines. You sense when your team is really playing and giving their all. And when a player says he didn't feel like everyone played up to the level or everyone gave the effort, to me, that is a huge issue. Now, to date, we haven't heard Doug Peterson talk to Andre Cisco or say that they've had this meeting of the minds to figure out what the disconnect is between the coaches and the players and the style of play. But I would say this week in particular, is about reestablishing the brand. If I'm Doug Peterson, if I'm the coaching staff, if I'm anyone around the team, this week is about reestablishing the brand, who the Jacksonville Jaguars are when we watch them. What do we see when we watch them play? Based on what we heard in the offseason, based on what we heard throughout training camp, what we should see is a team that plays hard, a team that gives great effort, a team that plays that pays great attention to detail, a team that when you watch them, they operate like a well-oiled machine. That is what we should see because that is what Doug Peterson talked about in the offseason. That's what he talked about in training camp. They talked about having a tough training camp to give this team the necessary grit and resilience to be able to deal with these kinds of moments and to see it through to the other side. So if his words are followed up by actions, then we should see that other team come to the other side, meaning we see a team that is hardened, We see a team that gives great effort. They're tough enough, and they execute at a high level when their backs are against the wall. Haven't seen it through the first 6 games, but we got to see it in week 7 as they are recommitted to reestablishing the brand in terms of how this team is supposed to play. How do they do that? Typically, when you lose games, you should reduce, not add, meaning the whole entire goal of the week should be to simplify everything, to put the players in the best position to play fast, to execute free of mental clutter. If you don't have mental clutter, you can play fast, you can be aggressive because you know exactly what you're doing at all times, and it takes the thinking out of the equation. This should be one of the simplest game plans that we've seen from the Jaguars, because this is less about the Patriots and more about the Jags. Doug Peterson, how can we get the offense to play at a high level? How can you tell Ryan Nielsen what I want from the defense to get them to play at a high level? Let's put in a simple game plan that allows our guys to play. No middle mistakes, no issues, no communication errors. We're lining up and we're going fast on both sides of the ball because we can be aggressive when we know what to do and how to do it. That's what we need to see. But beyond simplifying the game plan, there has to be, I would say, a strong adherence to the code. The code is don't beat ourselves. And when we talk about the DBOs, turnovers, pre-snap penalties, alignment assignment errors, mental miscues that just show up repeatedly on tape. What I want to see in this game and what the Jags coaches should want to see, let's see if we can play a game without a turnover. Let's see if we can play a game without a pre-snap penalty. I'm not saying that you don't get penalized throughout the game, but let's see if we can avoid a pre-snap penalty, meaning let's not jump off sides. Let's not line up in the neutral zone. Let's not have situations where we have a legal formation or illegal participation because we got too many guys on the field, or we're not properly lined up in terms of who's on the ball, who's off the ball at wide receiver. Let's see if we can play a clean game as it relates to the don't beat ourselves traits that we've established. Turnovers, pre-snap penalties, alignment, assignment errors, those things that are done, things that we can control without worrying about the opposition. That's what we need to be able to see. After that, I want to see this team really put it on number 16, Trevor Lawrence, to have a great game. And to put it on Trevor Lawrence to have a great game, to me, is let's utilize the premise that we had going into the Indianapolis Colts game. Not the same game plan, but what was the premise going into that game? The premise going into that game against Gus Bradley and the troops from Indianapolis, that defense is, Trevor, you got to be patient and you have to be disciplined. We're going to throw the ball underneath over and over and over again until a shot presents itself. When the shot presents itself, you got to cash in the lottery ticket and make them pay for doing something that they don't want to do. The game plan was as simple as that. Trevor got off to a fast start. He had a bunch of underneath throws. The offense was on schedule. They caught the opponent out of position, hit BTJ down the sideline, and away the offense went. Nailed over 30 points. Offense looked great, the best they've looked this season. This game plan should mirror the way that game plan looked. Not schematically, but from a philosophical standpoint. It should be, I want to set Trevor Lawrence up to play a good game. I want to put short, intermediate things in the game plan early. I want him to see a few layups go in the bucket before we progress and take shots down the field. If he strings together 7, 8, 9 completions in a row, he is going to feel different when it's time to make him push the ball down the field. He's going to have the confidence of seeing the ball go in the hole, and that is going to allow him to make a perfect throw. It's not lost on me. In the Indianapolis game, when he completed some underneath throws early, made it a lot easier for him to hit the deep ball late. That's who he is. You're Press Taylor, you're Doug Peterson. You have to know that, and it's time to show that by the way that you build this game plan. Short, intermediate, controlled passing game early, selectively take your deep shots when someone is napping, and as soon as you hit the deep shot, Go right back to the original game plan, short underneath. That's the chess match that you want to play with the opponent because it's the easiest thing that you can do to help your team get off. The other thing that you want to do when you think about helping the quarterback, you want to operate with this in mind. Players, not plays. Who are the best players? Let's not worry about the best plays. When I talk about the best players on this offense in the passing game, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Brian Thomas Jr. If we are to say, like, hey, let's split this off. We're going to have 30 pass attempts in the game. How should it operate? I'm telling you right now, I would say 100% of the balls need to go to those three, but I would say 85% of the balls that are caught and targeted in a 30 pass attempt game, 80 to 85% of those targets should go to Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and Brian Thomas Jr. I like the other players. The other players play a role, but the best players on this offense in the passing game are Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and Brian Thomas Jr. I want to make sure that they get enough plays and opportunities to impact the game in a positive way. I want them to feel the ball early. I want them to have it right away in the first quarter. I want them to be major factors in the game. So I talked about those three guys getting and how they should operate and control 80 to 85%. So out of a 30 pass attempt game, that puts you at 25 attempts going to those guys. So let's make the magic number 24. 24 targets out of 30 should go to Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram, and Christian Kirk. If they're doing it right, that's where the ball goes. Those other guys can eat the scraps, but I want my best players to have the biggest impact on the game. Speaking of impact, no Travis Etienne in this game. That means that Tank Bigsby is on deck. I'll say this. I've said it on radio. I've said it during the game. To me, Tank Bigsby is the workhorse back. They've talked about being co-RB1s, but Tank Bigsby is the workhorse. He gets it done as the runner. I am excited to see him perform and play as a starter. Ball security has been an issue. Put the ball on the ground again on a big hit on the kickoff return. Sometimes that happens, but too often, Tank Bigsby has been synonymous with fumbles. You talk to him before the game. You talk to him all week. They are going to attack the ball when you are in traffic. You got to hold on to it. You can't run scared. You got to be aware, though, 2 hands on the ball whenever I'm in track. I got to take care of the ball. The goal for Tank Bigsby at the end of each play, the goal is for him to hand the ball to the referee, meaning he secured it for the entire down, and he's given the ball to the ref before the next play. That's what we should see from Tank Bigsby. Ball control is everything. He's going to have an opportunity to run up some yards. He needs to be close to what I would say the 100-yard mark because it allows the Jaguars to control the game, set the tempo, dictate the terms to the defense. Speaking of defense, we'll get to the defense in a minute. I'm going to talk about the offensive line, and I'm going to continue to talk about the offensive line and how they have to get it done. This Patriots front may not be as talented as some that the Jaguars have faced, but their toughness and their energy, they're all-day suckers. Keon White is a problem. He's a problem at the line of scrimmage because he does not stop, relentless in his approach after the quarterback, after running backs. Front line has to hold up. The Jaguars are beginning to get better play from the offensive line as they put more time together, game reps. Those reps are significant because at the end of the game, Doug told me 2 games ago after the Colts game, he said, look, it takes time for the continuity of the offensive line to kick in. It takes 5-6 weeks for guys to be able to finish each other's sentences and understand exactly what the expectation is from everybody when they get these different looks that don't require verbal communication, but you're making eye contact, you're making hand gestures and those things. Everyone looking at the game, getting the right stuff, or are we doing our own thing? So it's important that everyone understands what they're doing. The offensive line knows how to handle all the exotic fronts and the changing pressure packages and where people are coming from. The offensive line has to perform at a high level because if they perform at a high level, then the expectation is that the defense is also going to perform at a high level. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to talk to you about my melon hat and how I just love my melon hat. MELIN, melon.com is where you can go to get a reliable, dependable, high-quality hat that is not going to stain or show any kind of marks when you're sweating in it, you're getting after it, you're on a run, you put on your hydro cool hat, you go run around the block and you're handling it, and you don't have to worry about damaging the dome because the hat has you already protected because of all the construction and the product, the materials that they've used to do this. Best hat that I've had. Make sure you go to the website, melon.com, to pick up the hottest hat in the game. So now let's talk about the defense, and let's talk about the Jags and what they need to get done on defense. Look, man, it has been quite the turnaround when we look at the defense, and I will acknowledge this. I am as disappointed as anybody in the performance of the defense after gassing them up during the preseason, after being super excited about how this team is going to perform and do the other stuff. Look, man, I'm surprised that they're at the bottom of the league in scoring and yards and all that. The team that I saw in the preseason really took well to the new scheme that Ryan Nielsen put in, and I thought the pieces match the way that they wanted to play. Hasn't worked out thus far, but here's what I would say. Having a conversation with a couple of defensive coaches, they talked about it takes some time for everyone to be on the same page. And when you think about the injuries that they've had on that side of the ball, particularly to what I call the communicators, Mike linebacker, free safety. Mike linebacker and Foye Oluokun has been out, nursing an injury. Andrew Wingard, Dewey, has not played, has not been available. And we think about what he brings in the back end. I would say his communication skills, his intelligence, his overall feel of the game is certainly important. They need him on the field because he is one of their best players because of his knowledge and awareness and ability to anticipate what is about to happen. Foye, not only because of his intelligence in controlling the middle of the defense, but also his dog mentality. He shows up every day. He has bad intentions, and the defense is lacking that. They need those guys to get in the mix. But it's not only like those guys getting in the mix. I think not Andre Cisco, but Tyson Campbell coming back and being in the lineup, how important he is. You won't have Dewey right away, but just a combination of Tyson Campbell and Foye coming back, two veteran players, two of your better players, two hard workers, guys that really take pride in their preparation and performance. Having those guys back in the huddle and having those guys on the field will change the way the defense plays. With this defense against this team, if I'm Ryan Nielsen, I'm standing up in front of the team saying, hey, man, it comes down to pass rush and coverage. They're always synonymous in terms of how the rush impacts the coverage. But this week, more than any other week, with a mobile quarterback like Drake, man, you got to make sure that your pass rush lanes are correct. You don't rush past the quarterback, meaning if I'm an outside edge dropper, when he stops, I stop. I don't go beyond that because then I create natural holes and creases within the pass protection. Pursue him to the depth of the drop, wait for him to wiggle around. He is going to come back to you. You'll pick up a cleanup, a garbage sack on something that really is a great coverage down and those things. The other thing that we need to do when we think about the pass rush, sometimes you have to be real. With the removal of Roy Robinson-Harris, this kind of forces these guys, Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, to play pretty much the entire game. And even though there's going to be some fatigue that sets in, we can work around some of that with some of our role players kind of hopping into the mix and doing some things. If you think about Eric Armstead and a guy that can be an inside-outside player, he's going to have to shoulder more of the load with Roy Robinson-Harris out. You think about the interior players, Devon Hamilton, those guys, they got to control the point of attack. They got to dominate at the point of attack so you eliminate the run game and force people into a heavy drop-back passing game. That's up front. So it's not only the monsters on the edges where we talk about Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. It's the guys on the interior that have to be able to get it done. Devon Hamilton, I would say Mason Smith, those guys have to perform at a higher level. We got to get immediate contributions from them young guys because the defensive tackle position is one that is hurting us. We need it to help us if we're going to find a way to get wins. Second level, actually third level. Let's talk about Tyson Campbell and what it could mean to the secondary. Tyson Campbell returns, gives them a true number one corner on the edges. Even though the Jacksonville Jaguars are reluctant to match him up and put him everywhere, he's very comfortable at right corner. It means that he's going to draw potentially some tough matchups down the line. But in this situation, they should feel good about where he lines up, and whoever they bring out, they should feel good about their ability to cover him, to keep them in front, to not allow easy windows, and Drake made to kind of get into his rhythm by letting him hit a bunch of dinks and dunks early where you look up and he's 10 for 12, 400 yards because he's really been wearing us out with the underneath stuff. Clamp those guys early, take away the underneath stuff, force them to make low percentage throws down the field. Do that, you'll be able to control the game and have it the way that you want it. There's been a lot of conversation about the Jaguars and why they're playing so much man-to-man instead of playing zone. I would say this, their personnel is better suited to play man-to-man. Not only the holdovers that were already there, but I would say the newbies that came in free agency and also through the draft. These are guys that excel at man-to-man coverage. They played man-to-man a ton. They're used to doing it. They know what they're doing. And when they're all on the same page and all on the string, they've been really good. Going back to the first week, second week, they've been really good. Even though they've been overwhelmed at times, surrendered some yards, they're typically right there. The ones that bother me have been when they try to play zone and they bust the zone. Free safety comes out, the deep half, chases something in the middle, they throw it right down the same. This game comes down to discipline and patience. Which play caller is going to be the most disciplined to only call things that my guys are good at, that they know like the back of their hand? Am I patient enough that if we leak a little yardage, I'm going to be okay by the time we get into the red zone? Patience, discipline. That's what this will come down to for the offense. Can Ryan Nielsen slowly allow the team to move the ball while he's tinkering with the front line and the units to put the team in a better position to win games? That is what we need to see. Chris Richard and those guys in the back end, make sure that Tyson Campbell's good. Don't overwork him, but make sure he jumps into the mix and has a lot of success being the number one corner, because it's going to be important for him to play at a high level, particularly surrounded by young guys that are going to have to shoulder a bigger load. When I think about the dilemma that coaches have when it comes to Ronald Darby or Darnell Savage and who plays outside, who plays inside, I can see a young guy like settling in and eventually becoming the guy. So we'll continue to monitor all those things, but Tyson Campbell has to be big. Andre Cisco has to be big, because what he did is put a spotlight right on his play. He can't loaf, he can't lollygag, because if he loafs and lollygags, we're going to put the bright lights on him just like he wanted. So before I get out, let me make sure I shout out Chair Bundy. Man, this has been a game changer for me in terms of just the way that it has helped me recover from my workouts. You know me. If you know me, you know that I'm a guy that loves to be on the mat. I'm going to do yoga every day. And sometimes I'm going to mix that in with a very hard workout. But Chair Bundy gives me an opportunity to recover faster. When you think about 66 of the 67 teams that play at Power 4 football conferences, they all use Chair Bundy. 10 of the last 11 Super Bowl champions, they've also been using Chair Bundy. So the way that I think about it, if I'm going to be great, I'm going to model great behavior, and great behavior includes having Chair Bundy on your list. Make sure you go to the website today, chairbundy.com, to see the cool products and offerings that the company has. That's going to do it for the podcast today. Man, please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check out all the cool things that we're doing on the Bleav network. A lot of cool colleagues are really contributing and making big things happen when it comes to their respective sites. And we love the crossover. We're going to do some more crossovers because the feedback has been great on that. Check out the stuff that we have going on Bleav's YouTube channel, all the podcasts, everything that you hear and see. We also can get the visual there. And then the final thing is, make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend about the cool stuff that we're doing and Bleav in Jaguars, trying to grow the brand, trying to expand the community to make sure that all of Duval is a part of what we're doing. So let's make sure you pass it on. Send a text, put the thing in, because as we get into the season, as we get closer to the stretch run, we're going to have some interesting comments and commentary, not only for me, but for some of the guests that I bring on. So until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks, and I'm out.